outside. I'ma be 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 outside.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sundaes Outside, a celebration of Black folks. My name is Arthur. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm so excited to be here today. I would like to recognize that I and many of the folks today are coming to you from the land of the Coast Salish, specifically the Duwamish, whose people past and present are still here. We honor with gratitude the land and the people. Sundaes Outside is a partnership between Washington State Parks, Folks and Traditional Arts Program, and Golden Bricks Events with additional support from our sponsors. The Washington State Parks, Folk and Traditional Arts Program, Washington State Parks Foundation, the Wilderness Society, Washington Trails Association, the National Endowment for the Arts, Conservation Northwest, National Parks Conservation Association, REI, the Trust for Public Lands, and the Friends of Seattle Waterfront. Today, we're here to celebrate the Black LGBTQIA+ community in this monthly series highlighting the outdoors and the awesome things that Black folks are doing all over Washington State. And yes, Sundae as an ice cream. What flavors have you been enjoying? Drop those in the chat. I actually have a bowl with me here myself. Got some vanilla ice cream with some mint chocolate cookies crumbled up in here. So that's what I'll be enjoying throughout the program. So I hope you have a bowl of ice cream for yourself too. And don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, and I'm excited to be here as an MC. Last year I got to perform as part of this program at Lake Sammamish Park, where I did a dance performance, and then I taught a couple of 8 counts here for people too. So I'm excited to be back this time as an MC. And I'm currently coming to you from Seattle in this international district, though I personally call many places home, having been born in Nairobi, Kenya, raised in Germany for a little bit, and now having been in Seattle for about 2 years. And before that, I was in Baltimore. All right. We have an awesome lineup. Today we're highlighting Cape Disappointment State Park, which is on the Long Beach Peninsula, where the Columbia River meets the Pacific Ocean. Let's get started with a history lesson from Hasan Davis and Ron Craig. Hasan Davis is a community leader and reenactment actor based in Kentucky. Ron is an expert on the history of York, who was William and Clark's slave and the only African-American member of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Ron served as a consulting producer on the Oregon Public Broadcasting documentary, The Undiscovered Explorer, Imagining York. He is a Portland native and serves as the executive director of the Astoria International Film Festival. Let's go to that video now.
My name is York, just York. It is the name that my daddy carried before me. I was born a slave. No, I was born to be the slave, the property of another man. And that is the shame that my daddy carried before me. But I have seen a world that few white men might ever dream of. I have climbed the top of snow-capped mountains, swum rivers so swift that the buffalo lose their foot, watched whales dance across the cool waters of two oceans, and I have walked amongst the people. Those Americans you call Indian have welcomed me into their land with open arms, like some long-lost brother. And now, I ask you to hear of the things that I have seen, so that when I am gone from here, my name, my voice, my story does not die here with me.
My name is Ron Craig. I got interested in New York a number of years ago with the start of the bicentennial and commemorating the 200th anniversary of the Corps of Discovery. As a young child, living growing up in the area, I knew there was an African American that was involved as far as the Corps of Discovery, but I didn't know that much about, along with everyone else. It's one of those situations that, fast forward, all of a sudden the bicentennial is coming up, and I did a little research looking at this, and no one had any idea as far as overall. It's only about maybe 2 books that were written. There were more books written about the dog, Seaman, than there was about York. It's just the fact that he happened to be a person of color, a slave, and to be able to suppress it. To know one's history is empowering. And the disempowerment is the fact of saying that you're not worth this, you didn't do anything to contribute, and it goes within not only for us blacks, also women. It's like realizing this back 20 years ago that my mission was to go out and tell the story of York and what it was about, to be able to put the information out there, and then you take it, and I call them historical breadcrumbs, to be able to get people out there to look at this and look at that. Part of my own history, that what happened partially got me going, because I did not find out elements or segments of my history, my family history, until probably in my mid-20s or so. And I realized that my family had been involved in a race riot in Alabama. And the fact that they lynched my family's, I didn't know about it, and my family had suppressed it. And this is my great-great-grandfather and stuff, my grandmother's father. But with the idea that they suppressed that because they were afraid. Because you have a situation where the fact that they had to leave the area and because there was bounties out on the family name. So the short of it is the fact of realizing how empowering that was to me. And I just really enjoy the fact of being able to go out and impart little things as far as history. Lecturing in some of the little colleges, the students a lot of the time, they were, I would say, angry but were disturbed that they were denied this history. I think it's really, significant that we are able to look at that, and with the idea, York was my vehicle to be able to tell people about it. And the fact that he was denied his freedom once he got back, I couldn't see his wife. He was one of the only members of the expedition that had a wife, well, actually was the only member, and one of the few members of the expedition could actually swim. But he and Sacagawea, at different points in the expedition, were put more in the forward position, because the fact that they realized the native tribes along the line had never seen an African American or a black man before. And the fact that once they realized that, they started putting them at the head of the column, or where the native tribes could see them, because they thought he was incredible because with the idea of naming him, calling him, Big Medicine, that was an honorable thing to be calling them. And the whites they had seen before, they kind of distanced themselves from some degree. But the fact that he was within their culture, as far as knowing who he was, in Chicago we had a child on our backs. That showed that they were not a warring party. And so the fact of, getting up here on the Columbia River and, in 1805, of voting, and there's some colleagues say that, well, it wasn't a vote, it was a poll, it was a military expedition. Absolutely, I do not disagree with that. But the fact of asking a African American what he thought at that time, an indigenous Native American woman, what she thought, to me, that was significant. How empowering would that be in 1805? To know that this was going on. He was as qualified as far as the members of the expedition as any of the members, because he had been as far as outdoors and things like that. Early on, they always written that he was just sort of this dancing dandy and all this other stuff going on. Or like here you got this guy, 6'1", 200 pounds or whatever it is and stuff. They wanted that in their gene pool, and I understand that. But the way they interpret it as far as history books, he was this guy just going around, doing a dandy, and the fact for me, I wanted to take that and have people re-examine it, because that was not what it was happening there. And the fact, he was not freed after, we'd say 9 years after he came back from the expedition. So all these little elements, I think, for people to look at and to be able to pull together and make their assessment. But the fact, you can't deny it happened, because here we are in the 21st century, it's just an education. And they proceed with that and stuff. And like I said, across the board, a lot of people are more to the point of, well, why? Why were we? And I said, once again, it's empowering to know your history. A lot of our history has been, should I say, discounted or not really accepted because of the fact it was oral. And that goes with the idea of, indigenous people, well, no, so-and-so said X, Y, Z, it can't be right, and at the same time, as far as African American slaves were not allowed to read or write. So my father is going to tell me about X, Y, Z, and so that's an oral history. And so it turns to a story. And so from my experience on the trail, which 6 or 7 times I've been up and down the trail, the fact that really engage with some of the native tribes that were there, and we're sitting there having and they're giving me tobacco, which I understand what that was all about and stuff, to be able to experience that. And they're telling me different things about York, and the fact that had not necessarily been, written down in some of the books that are there. And so I'm listening to this, and it's just really incredible to be able to hear it. So I think it's very significant to be able to have that, because of the fact that that was our only record, was oral history, or storytelling. I grew up as a Boy Scout. My father was a Scout master. I was like 12 years old, and like growing up in Oregon, it was just like, it was there to be able to see it snowing, to be able to go camping. It just was very significant for me as an individual, and as an African American, it was even more so. I learned later on, because even with the idea socially that people looked at me like, well, yeah, what's wrong with you, sort of thing, and but I enjoyed it. I still do. Lewis and Clark, and Who is That Black Man Standing Next to Clark, by Ron Craig. York was born into slavery in Caroline County, Virginia in 1772 to John Clark, father of William Clark. York and William Clark were about the same age, yet the boys were bound by the hard reality of slavery, which cast young William as master and York as slave. Upon the death of John Clark on July 29, 1799, he, the will, stated that William would receive personal property, plantation utensils, furniture, livestock, and a still. The will further stated, quote, I also give unto my son William one Negro man named York, end quote. With the reading of John Clark's will, the law of slave and master was now passed to the next generation. President Thomas Jefferson received permission from Congress to send a secret expedition to navigate the Missouri River to the Pacific Ocean. In July of 1803, William Clark became a member of the Corps of Discovery. York became the only African American member of the Lewis and Clark expedition. His wilderness skills were equal to the other men of the expedition, and York was one of the few men who could swim. Most of the Indians west of Fort Mandan had never seen a black man, so York's presence on the Coral Discovery became very unique and helpful when negotiating with the Indians. They all wanted to see this, quote, monster, as Captain Clark described York, to entice their curiosity. Yet they referred to York with names such as, quote, Big Medicine, denoting courage and respect. The party arrived at the mouth of the Columbia River on November 15, 1805. On November 24, 1805, York became the first African American slave of record to vote. Upon returning to St. Louis on September 23, 1806, the Coral Discovery had been given up as lost. All the other members of the expedition were compensated for their services. York received nothing. We know that Clark did not free York for approximately another 9 years or allow him to see his wife until months after the expedition. Clark became so frustrated with York's request for freedom that he beat him and hired him out to a severe master. York's death was recounted to Washington Irving in the form of an interview with Clark in 1832. Clark stated that York had died of cholera on his way back to St. Louis and was buried in an unmarked grave. There is also a legend that a trapper called Zenas Leonard reported seeing, quote, a Negro man, end quote, living as a chief with the Crow Indians in 1832. This man claimed to have traveled with Lewis and Clark. York's story is but one of many in our history books that need to be re-examined for the benefit of our next generation of young students to make a true assessment of African Americans' contribution to the development of this country.
And I ask you this so that when I am gone from here, my name, my voice, my story does not die here with me. For that is the way of the people. And the sad truth is, these few words, they are the only things I have left to give the world. Well, the sun has finally set. And now, my next journey must begin. Godspeed.
Wow, that was so insightful. There's so much history for us to keep learning. Thank you, Ron and Hasan, for all the work you do to make sure that York's story is not forgotten. There are so many stories that haven't been shared about Black folks outside. Golden Bricks is working to change that. Later this year, they'll be launching Public Lands Unearthed, a Black and Indigenous people of color oral history project, starting with Black stories around Washington State. Make sure you're on the Golden Bricks mailing list to stay in the know. Today, we're highlighting the LGBTQIA+ community. Every Sundays Outside episode, we take a moment to highlight organizations that are doing work around Washington State and this general area. Today, we'd like to spotlight wild diversity. Let's go to that video now.
And you all can get started.
All right. Hello. Good morning. It is so wonderful to meet you. And we're just going to have a conversation about wild diversity, about you. And yeah, let's just get started. In your words, what would you say wild diversity's mission is?
Well, wild diversity, we seek to create a personal connection with people of color and the queer and trans community with outdoors. So we do it with outdoor education, outdoor adventures, and we just want to create that sense of place for our community in the outdoors.
Awesome. And can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with wild diversity?
Yeah. Well, my name is Emcee. I'm the executive director and founder of Wild Diversity.
Nice.
So, I got us started, way back when 2017, just feeling like our community more than ever
Mm.
needed a retreat, needed a safe space, needed to develop that community in a place that can be very restorative. So, I did that work and here we are today, and it's been a very exciting process.
Nice. And what would you say has been your most joyful outdoors experience?
Oh, well, for me, anywhere around water is amazing
Mm.
for me. I'm such a water baby, and I love doing water activities in and around water. I think for me, one of the first times that I really was like, well, this is what the outdoors could be like, is when I went on my first BIPOC outing that we hosted, and it was night and day. I think at that time it had been a rough road, and I was coming from a place where I just didn't know if I wanted to do this, didn't know if I want to be out there. I had some really tough experiences, and to be able to be in the outdoors with other BIPOC folks, to be myself, to not be in the place where I'm not enough or where I'm too much or where I'm this and that. It was a very healing experience, and it reconnected my relationship with the outdoors. So it was a very powerful experience. And I feel like I'm out here just trying to get everyone in our community to have that experience too.
Absolutely. Um, Actually, on that, what would you say are some of the main barriers for Black and Brown queer people to make it to the outdoors? Why isn't it that we're occupying these spaces in the ways that we sort of wish to and want to, and in the ways that you've described? Um, mhm.
That's a good question. I mean, I think for each individual, it definitely varies. It varies on their past experience, it varies on their access. Sometimes the outdoors can just be straight up unsafe, on top of just feeling unsafe. And, besides the lions, tigers, and bears, there's folks that are out there to try to harm us, you
Mm.
know, and that is definitely a scary prospect. I think being in the Pacific Northwest is so beautiful and so vast, so much to do outside. But without community, what is that outside life like?
Ooh.
So, you have your friends, you hang out with them, but they might not be outdoor people. So finding that connection within your community who are outdoor people where you can have that safety, where you can have that community, is something else entirely. So we're trying to foster that. Whether folks come with us or they experience us and we teach them and we show them the process of how we get outdoors, then they are able to take their family and their friends. We could be a starting point or a place where people come back and forth to connect in. So, I mean, it's an interesting process, and we hope to just keep facilitating those experiences in whatever capacity our community wants and needs it.
Absolutely. Um, can you tell me a bit more about Wild Diversity's programming? Like, what are some of the things that you do to ensure people feel welcomed and feel in community in the outdoors?
One of our newest programs is our BIPOC swim program.
Yes. Okay. Mhm.
And it's not just about like, we'll teach you strokes, we'll throw you in the water and teach you how to swim, but
Mm.
it just begins with healing folks' relationship with water.
Yes.
The next step for us is just like, let's have fun experience. Let's have games, connections, like let's get it out the water and be together. And then we can practice swimming. And so it has the opportunity for community members to come in wherever they're at. Just teaching people to swim is not holistically supporting a community who has quite low visibility within water, within river, within swimming, but seeing where they're at and saying, I can reach you here, I can reach you here,
Mm.
to me feels like a more holistic program to reach the community. Um, and so that has been really exciting. Our swim leaders are amazing, dedicated, intentional with the workshops that they have crafted. So, and we do that. We have, your outdoor adventure, your hikes, your backpacks, your canoe and kayak trips, whether it's single day or overnight trips. Our day trip leaders have also been curating a handful of adventures, just a wide range of stuff, not just hikes, but let's go create in the outdoors. Let's go draw. Let's go learn. Let's go look at plants. Let's connect folks to have English as a second language in the outdoors. So they're really going above and beyond to help meet the community where they're
Wow.
at and create a diverse range for people to get outside. Because everybody's outside looks different, right? You know, what you love to do is going to be different than what and if
Absolutely.
we like the same thing, the reasons why we like it are going to be so different. So I think we have an amazing crew of over 30 adventure leaders that have been
Wow.
working hard to create and foster these spaces for our community.
Wow. That's amazing. Um, and how can folks right now get involved with wild diversity or support the work that you do?
I think they come out to our adventures if you're looking for community.
Mhm.
We do multi-day trips, so if you travel, we'll make it worth your while. If you come over now,
Nice.
but I think the most important thing, what we want is to create that safe and welcoming place for people
Right.
now. So to support the work we're doing, we need each and every person to be a part of that process.
Mhm.
It's like different things to different people, checking in, see what their needs are, supporting them, and knowing that the way that we think support looks like may not be their same love language. So
Mhm.
it's important to show up. If you want to show up for somebody, show up in the way they need you to show up,
Yes.
and help create that space. Sometimes people just need an ally. Some people need a buddy. Some
Yeah.
people need support with gear. I mean, there's
Mhm.
so many different factors. So just to be mindful of, each and every day when we're in the outdoors, what we can do to foster it. Sometimes just information,
Mm.
guidance, less policing, more supporting.
That part.
You know?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. We're going to drop ways for folks to financially support your organization in the chat. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Thank you, Mercy. We recorded that earlier this morning as they couldn't join us this evening. I really enjoyed my conversation with them, and I can't wait to check out some of their programming myself. Wild Diversity really is doing it out here. Their donation link is going to go in the chat below, so please be sure, if you're able to, open your purse and give. This is really important work, and I'm just so glad that they're around. Do you have a Discover Pass? Don't know what a Discover Pass is? Discover Pass is your ticket to the outdoors. We know that cost is a barrier, so after every Sundays Outside, we are giving away one Discover Pass. So tell us what you thought of the event and be entered into a chance to win a pass. The survey will be shared at the end. Huge shout out to Washington State Park Foundation for providing these. And have you ever wanted to provide feedback to a park experience? Washington State Parks Foundation is looking for Black and Indigenous people of color to participate in a design project in an effort to make our parks more inclusive. There are a few ways to participate, including visiting a state park in the next 2 weeks and providing feedback. Stipends, reimbursements, and passes will be coordinated prior to your visit, so just reach out to us. Speaking of getting to parks, check out these upcoming performances that Washington State Parks Folk and Traditional Arts Program is putting on. This upcoming week, July 24th, at Deception Pass, the singer-songwriter Briar will be performing a mix of vintage jazz, blues, and original music. On August 7th, past Sundaes Outside super talented cello musician Gretchen Yanover will be at Deception Pass as well. Now we're going to head to Cape Disappointment State Park. Next on the program, we are in for a treat. I'm really excited for this next performance. I don't want to say too much, so we're just going to cut to the video.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Regine Dynasty from the legendary House of St. James. I am the founder of Nubian Pride Productions and the Nubian Pride King and Queen pageant here in Seattle, Washington. I've got into drag because of the legendary Tony James and LaWanda Jackson encouraged me to pursue female impersonation because they saw something in me. And from that, I met Busty Palmer, who put me in my first drag show. So we should all join in celebrating the LGBTQ plus community because we are the movers and the shakers. Without us, we won't have anyone to challenge the norms and make better events. So until we start celebrating both the LGBTQ community as well as the hetero norm communities, we will never be united. We have to focus on celebrating, encouraging, and uplifting each other because we are only one human race on this earth and we need each other to survive. My favorite outdoor memory was the very first Nubian Pride weekend celebration that I put together 11 years ago, no, in 2010. We went to Volunteer Park. It was a group of us that got together, and this is before I knew anything about permits or anything like that, and we totally like turned it out. We had friends come, we had hetero people there, we had the LGBTQ people there, we had children, we had elderly folks. It was a good mixture of community there celebrating and having fun all together. It was a really special moment in my lifetime because I was like, hey, I can really spark a flame to get things moving. And ever since then, it's always been in my mind to throw events that are not just centered on one sector of the community, but that involve everyone, because that's way we can all do our part to merge and support and unify. From the age of 12, I've been a participant in the Electronettes drill team. And it's like a youth-based drill team that is focused on uplifting and encouraging at the time it was young girls to become more self-positive and focus on education, as well as relying on sisterhood and teamwork. And as it grew, it became a safe haven for boys who wanted to do a drill team as well. As the years gone by and I've gotten older, I was able to invite the Electronettes drill team to march in the Gay Pride Parade with us. So Nubian Pride and Electronettes drill team, we merged together to form a strong bond again of, families, friends, young and old, supporting our youth. Because in the drill team, you come in, you're a person. It doesn't matter what your sexuality is. It doesn't matter what your ethnic background is. It doesn't matter what your gender identity is. You walk in and you are no longer this person off the street. You are now an Electronet team member. So outside means to me freedom. It means grounding. It means synergy. I'm a firm believer that nature cures all. So being able to be outside and enjoy everything that nature has to offer us is very spectacular. So everybody should take time, hug a tree, pet the grass. Don't pick a flower unless the flower says yes. And enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the sun. We need all this natural vitamins that we can get. Everything we need is on the earth. Public lands means the appreciation of Mother Nature. We have to have these designated areas to continue to let our wildlife be free. We need our wildlife so that we can maintain. Everything runs on an ecosystem, and do what we can to lobby and make sure that we can keep as much as we can, because every day more and more greenery is being taken away, and pretty soon if we don't have any natural green, man-made green is not going to be the same. We need to do our parts and just celebrate our national parks, our wildlife reserves, our public lands. So we need spots for our children to get off of the screens and work their limbs, stretch out, run, play tag, dirt bomb fights. You know, we need all that stuff, and without our public lands, we can't have that. So support them whenever you see if there's a bill passed in your county, state, whatever your government is doing. Make sure you lobby and you do what you can to protect our public lands because we need them. We need our animals, we need our greenery, we need our oxygen. Okay, and we need our dirt bombs so we can go back to the 80s and have fun.
All right. We are the movers and the shakers. I love that performance so much. Well, of course, we love Mary J. Blige, all hail to the queen. But there's just so much about what Regine Dynasty was sharing, the performance itself, that was just so amazing. You know, pushing the boundaries of what is possible. Because sometimes all it takes is for us to just make it out. And then take up the space in whatever way that makes sense to us. And for me, you can always get me out for a drag show. So that was just so nice to see, especially with the dress that was refracting the sunlight, mirroring the lake right behind them. That was just all wonderful to see, and seeing all that come together. It's making me want to go out and dance, and touch some grass, hug a tree, do all that. Yeah. And we are coming to the end of our program today. I want to thank our sponsors again, Washington State Parks Foundation, the Wilderness Society, Washington Trails Association, National Endowment for the Arts, Conservation Northwest, National Parks Conservation Association, REI, the Trust for Public Lands, Friends of Seattle Waterfront, and last but not least, Washington State Parks Folk and Traditional Arts Program. It's been my pleasure joining you here today, this evening. I had a lot of fun. These videos were super insightful. I got to meet Emcee, which is super cool. I'm really excited to start getting a group together to really do some cool outdoors events, really get to experience the beauty that this area has to offer. I'm honored to have hosted this event, and I wanted to introduce Mary Ann Osborne, who will be taking over the hosting duties for the remainder of the series. Welcome, Mary Ann. Introduce yourself to the people.
Hey, thank you so much, Arthur. I will join you on that camping trip, or whatever. Hey, okay, and let's dance in the woods and dance outside. Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Ann Osborne, and a little bit about myself. I'm originally from the beautiful state of Michigan. And when our family moved to Seattle, we did so via, a van and tents, right? So we camped. We did a road trip, an immense road trip across halfway across the country, went to Mount Rushmore, went to, we went to Yellowstone, kind of dipped down, came back over. And the love of camping and outdoors was born in me at that moment. I am an actress. I sing, I write. I love doing original works, especially musical theater. But I just love all sorts of artistic creations. And I am the executive director of the Mahogany Project, which is an arts organization that spotlights the stories of artists of all genres from the African diaspora. So check out themahoganyproject.org. And, when it comes to outdoors too, I'm so happy to be here because I love sharing the outdoors with friends and family. Particularly, we have grandchildren now. So my husband and I, we love going out and sharing national parks, state parks, local parks, water, forest, snow, whatever, with her and with her brother and just with everyone we come in contact with. So once again, I'm excited to be here. That's a little bit about me. So back to you, Arthur.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. Well, before I pass the hosting duties on to you, I'd like to thank Ron, Hasan, Emcee, and Regine for sharing their talents and their passion with us today. I also want to thank the team. that helped make this happen: Monica, Kiwi, Brandy, Siobhan, and Michaela. With that, it's all yours, Marianne.
Thank you, Arthur. All right, all right, all right. See you. Thank you. Thank you to all the artists. As Arthur said, I'm so excited once again to be here and to MC the remainder of the series. A lot of really great conversations coming up, and we have so much more to see. So we want you to continue to follow us. Check us out on social media at Golden Bricks Events or at our website, goldenbricksevents.com. Now, this year's lineup is amazing. You don't want to miss anything. And next month, we'll be celebrating activism in all of its glory. And we'll be talking with Washington State Parks Commissioner Sophia Dannenberg, as well as Lael Johnson, the owner of Fly Guide. And there's so much more we'll be doing next month also. So don't miss it. RSVP today. And don't forget to fill out the survey that Arthur mentioned previously and enter into a chance to win a Discover Pass. We just bought one of the national parks passes because we're going to be checking out some national parks passes. We got our Discover Pass. It is so worth it. I hope that you will enter into the survey, enter into your chance to win, and join us in the outdoors. And to close out, let's head on back to Riverside Park with DJ Rosethrow. DJ Rosethrow is going to be putting some music for us. So thank you for joining us today for Sundaes Outside, where we celebrated Black LGBTQIA and hopefully enjoyed some ice cream. I was having some caramel, almond, butter, brickle, non-dairy ice cream. So I hope that you had an enjoyable taste of some ice cream, were encouraged by everything you saw today and learned and heard. Support all the folks who are doing the great work that you saw today. And we will see you next month. All right. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.